Hello, all. Abigail here. And I kind of wanted to talk about past life work. What it is, how do you know if you need to do it, why is it important? Kind of starting off with what it is. It's nice to have a little definition. It is the processing and the working through and the digesting of past life energy. And I will say, just to start it off, not everyone is meant to do that in this lifetime. However, if you are continuing to listen to this video, there is a good chance you need to. That's kind of how energy works. We are attracted to what spirit is calling us to do. There are many ways to engage with past life work. My primary engagement is astrology. I am not an evolutionary astrologer, which is the astrology of past life, but I do use past life techniques from evolutionary astrology in my work. I'm a little too unconventional for the title, but astrology is one way I do that. I also work with Reiki to do past life rectification. Not every Reiki practitioner is called to this. It's not um, a hierarchy, you're a better Reiki healer if you do past life work. It is what the Reiki guides decide is your purpose. And I don't get to choose how that works or what stories get to be told. I simply do the Reiki and give the information and advice I am given from spirit to my clients. So that's one way I work with it. Um, there are many other ways you can use hypnosis, astral travel. Um, I've never participated in it, but you can use things like the little the little things with caps um, that cause us to have little visions, little trips. I'm not sure if we're allowed to talk about this on YouTube. I'm new here. You can do it through psychedelics. Um, Long story short, that's not my preferred method, but I know it is possible, and many people I have talked to have experienced that through it. How effective is it? I don't know because a lot of them were not on a guided trip. Um, but that I think is important to know. And you're like, Abigail, how do I know? How do I know if I have past life stuff to work through? There's lots of ways. Some people 100% have repetitive dreams that are from past lives. Um, the kind of general rule with past life stuff is that children generally have a clear or clear-ish memory of past life stuff up until 7. Some children, they're in the minority, carry that through to adulthood. But if your child is telling odd stories, or if you remember, or there's a family story that your parents tell over and over again of you telling odd stories or having odd dreams or being like, my name was Bob, which actually happens, that is someone with a really strong past life imprint whose soul wanted to remember on this side because there are important things to be done. That is one really obvious way. If you forgot them to a certain degree but are an adult, you can have dreams that are repetitive. I have a friend who constantly dreams about a tornado. That is a past life thing. Um, Another one is just constantly feeling deja vu, constantly meeting people you already know, constantly engaging with energy, and you're like, I've been here before. That is a past life thing. It also means very likely that you are repeating cycles over and over again and have something in astrology called a skip step. Um, it means that you continually keep doing the same thing. And the goal of this lifetime then would be to can I get out of that skip step? Um, yeah, so that's another way, that deja vu feeling. Another one, not quite deja vu, but just the frustration and the feeling of constantly being in the same situation over and over again. It's not quite a deja vu feeling, but it's like I never seem to progress. I never seem to get ahead. I'm constantly with different people and in the same dynamic is a really big one. Just no matter what you do, all of your friendships seem to end the same way, or all of your relationships seem to have the same dynamic. Um, it's also important to note that if you have a strong, say, parent child dynamic, very likely, you're repeating that not just in parent child relationships, but you can be repeating it in romantic relationships. Um, and it's important to know that these lives are separate. So if you are with someone in a different dynamic, it is not creepy or weird per se, but you have to make sure that the dynamic that it is now is that dynamic and you're not constantly reverting back to that old dynamic. You can see this a lot in romantic relationships where one partner is like incredibly reliant on the other partner, not in a, supportive partner dynamic, but is in one partner is very much the adult and the other one is very much kind of in an infantilized position. That can be past life, parent, child, repeat. It's not creepy or weird because you're in a different lifetime, but if you continue to exemplify and repeat that dynamic in a different one, you need to work on that. You need to rectify it. Because, yes, we can play out in multiple dynamics with different people, but this is your primary dynamic. And if you keep doing past life stuff, that is something that needs to be rectified. Say, what is rectification? That is the untangling and maybe not the fixing per se, but the ending or the healing of a past life dynamic that is toxic or entrapping you, holding you back. Um, I do rectifications through Reiki. That is my primary past life work with Reiki is I get past life information when I work with the energy with the goal of helping whatever soul I'm working with to move ahead. And no, it doesn't obliterate all of these dynamics, but it helps begin to heal them. And then you say you're my client, you as the person who is working through this begins to take physical action when you see these things. So setting boundaries, um, when you start to date someone, let's say, and you're like, this feels familiar, you either try to shift the dynamic with that person, to get ahead of it, or you say, hey, you know what, this isn't for me. I've done this before. And that's how you heal. I don't want to say that past life rectification is a heals all karmic energy and not karmic energy in like kind of the basic Western version, but the deep understanding that we get from a vast uh, and long and ancient history in Eastern cultures with karma is what I'm talking about. This deep entanglement karma is not just like tit for tat. That's not how this works. Um, and now I've gone off on a tangent. Don't remember where I am. Anyways, you know, karma is not tit for tat. It's way more dynamic and more complicated, and it's not something that you can just slap on things. And, you can still say, oh, wow, that's karmic when something bad happens to someone immediately, but there's a deeper, richer, more ancient story going on. So, just be aware and don't minimize it. Uh, you know, it's very important. Anyways, rectification is that healing. A lot of times, what I end up doing, I can't in a Reiki, I usually do it in a series of 3 in a Reiki healing session um, that I do for rectification. What ends up happening is usually we can cleanse the energy field of the person, um, release some of the entanglements. Not all of them. It's not that simple. Some people literally look like they're wrapped in spider's web. They have so many psychically, they have so many energetic bonds. I tend to be able to cull that down. It's also important to note that past life work is based on timing. So if you do it really early, like say before your Saturn return, there is a good chance that while that can be really helpful, it may not stick as well. You may have to come back and fix it because Saturn and time are very important when we're talking about timelines. So just know that I don't ever encourage kind of carte blanche getting past life rectification across the board. Some people, it's very timely. And it's also very based on the person who's coming to me. Oftentimes I am the person they need to work with, but if they don't, I make sure they know that they should follow their instinct to find someone else. Um, and also, there is specific timing for this. So maybe they come to me in the spring of a year, and I look at the astrology because I use that in my Reiki to decide when to do healings and when to do rectifications. And I see some big transits coming up that I really feel they need to work with before we do it. I'll say, hey, come back in a year, come back in 2 years, come back in 6 months. And, we will work on that and we will do that at that time. And, it's also an indication to me if that person remembers and takes the action to recontact me that they are in fact ready for past life work. I don't want to push anyone into it. I don't. It really has to be led by the person who needs it. Um, it's a thing that you have to learn as a witch and a psychic that even if you know what needs to be done, if the person is not ready or they do not know that for themselves, it doesn't matter. That's not your job to push them into a karmic path. That has to be something the soul agrees to 100%. So, you know, that's also really important. Um, I do feel like I maybe have gotten a little rambly, which is my ADHD autism coming through. But if you have any questions, you can pop them in the comments, DM me on other platforms, contact me through my website. Um, but yeah, so I do feel in kind of the current astrology, past life work is becoming more and more important. Another way that I do past life work um, for spirits, people, souls that are not yet embodied but have been, is my spirit baby work. Um, Spirit babies are kind of an outlier in psychic work. They're a fairly new discovery in the 70s by someone named Walter McKitchen. Um, it is the work with souls that are coming in to reincarnate. And I can't speak for other spirit baby mediums. We all have a different path and process. But for me, um, I help those souls communicate and discover and explore. I don't know if you can hear it. My dog is choking. He has a tracheal issue. Discover and explore past life themes that might be blocking a child from coming or might be important for the prospective parent to know. I also don't only offer my services for people who want children. A lot of people who do not want children have spirit babies and souls that want to reincarnate, and it can be really important as that embodied soul makes the decision to not have children to go and let that other soul know and let that soul know why, so that soul is free to go reincarnate with someone else or to wait for a different lifetime or find a different path to conception. Um, no one should have children if they don't want to. It's very important. um, but it can be really impactful to talk to that soul and to tell them it's okay. I had a soul come to me recently to wanting me to let someone know. I can't really let that person know because they need to come to me first. But let them know that while they couldn't reincarnate with them, they want to reincarnate with someone else and maintain that relationship that way. Um, but obviously, it's not my job to be like, knock, knock, knock. Hi, soul you don't know reached out to me through the cosmos. So it's really important to understand those boundaries. If you're interested in this work, if you are looking for psychics to work with, my kind of, especially with past life stuff, my thing is like, no good psychic, know someone who is truly in service to past life energy, to rectification, is going to pressure you into a service or tell you that you have to get it through them. That's just not true. Not everyone I interact with is meant to work with me long term. Not everyone um, who comes to me needs to do spiritual work and hire me right now. And what I have found is when someone genuinely wants a spirit baby reading or do past life rectification, they will follow up with me. And that is my go ahead that they are ready and excited to move ahead. Now, if they want to book with me right in that moment, that's fine. But if I don't feel like they're ready and I say, hey, contact me in a couple months and they do, then obviously this is a good to go thing. And that's something you can look out for on your end if you want to do this work, is that repetitive, constant kind of nagging thing. I think I kind of covered the basics. Um, Past life memories, me trying to ADHD figure this out in retrospect. What did I talk about? Past life memories, deja vu, repetitive cycles. Um, Also, even if you don't experience that and you encounter someone like me or another spiritual person and you're talking and they start to give you past life messages or be like, hey, I really, you know, past life stuff, any ring a bell, that is also an indication that your spirit guides, other spirits that work with you, ancestors, are nudging you towards past life work. It's way more dynamic, and I could spend hours talking about this. Past life rectification through Reiki is really beautiful and unique because Reiki is like a neutral, good energy for the good of everyone, which is why I work with it specifically. I like to work under the umbrella of protection because I have a specific birth chart that I have interactions with all kinds of energy, not always great. And so Reiki offers me a nice protective healing thing to kind of channel the intensity of the energy that I had that kind of pulls in a lot of things if I'm not careful. Same with spirit baby work. I personally do not astrally travel anymore because I have to be safe for the souls that I work in. Some people, however, are meant to astrally travel, and that is also a great way to kind of you can actually jump timelines and observe past life stuff that way. But that's a really advanced technique, and you either have to have like an innate um, proclivity towards it or work really intentionally with training yourself. I also say, as far as psychic stuff and past life stuff, I think everything can be learned. Not everything is meant for you, but if it is meant for you and you are not skilled with it, you will be able to learn it. So don't let anyone tell you you can't do something if you feel that it is for you. But yeah, that's kind of just a little intro into past life work. Like I said, the energies I feel are kind of bringing it to the surface and making it more and more relevant, and more souls are going to be seeking it out and wanting to do it. Um, as someone with ADHD, I can never tell if I'm clear or not. And I have a Mercury square to my little Uranus Neptune conjunction in Capricorn. Um, that sometimes makes me unable to, like, I know I'm on the right path if I feel mildly unhinged, which is a very Neptunian, Uranian thing. Um, so I hope this resonated. If you have any questions, like I said, you can ask me about this anytime. You can look up the offerings I have on my website. Like I said, if I am not the one for you, then you will find the person that you need to work with. Maybe I'm just unlocking a door for you. Everyone has their purpose, and it's not always one to one. Anyways, I feel very vibrational and vibrating after talking about this, which is something that happens with me when I talk about my purpose and the things that I enjoy. And it's also something you can look out for if you're a highly spiritual person. Um, that vibrating you can feel when something is aligned is an important indicator, especially when working with sensitive things like past life work and other souls and stuff like that. All right, my loves, I hope that this was informative and helpful and maybe gave you some insight into some, work you can do moving ahead. Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to say something else. Give me a second. Oh, yeah. It's important to note that while spirits do past life work and there are specific spirits for specific things, I work with a group called the Lords of Karma. I also work with Reiki spirits. Something that's also prevalent and relevant in past life work, for me specifically, it's in spirit baby work, is working with angels. Which is really hilarious because when I started spirit work, I come from a very culty-ish Christian background. We'll blur that out just in case that's not appropriate here. And I was like, angels, whatever. I don't work with them. I don't even think they're real because I was raised with them. And guess what I found out? They are not all innately tied to the things we know, although you do see repeated symbols in different belief systems. But yeah, I work with angels now, specifically with my spirit babies, but they are very invested in past life work, in progressing humanity, and trying to work with the chaos of Earth and trying to help us move forward and create a more healed and healthy world. Um, so that's just a little message that they wanted me to share. Anyways, my loves, I will see you in a different space and time. Please subscribe if you're interested in my work, or even if you're not, it gives me joy to see people following me. I love connection, little connection goblin. And I will see you all in a different space and time.